so random. I said, well, that's what it's supposed to be. So, but after doing 2 of them, I understood how they work. It's a little different than doing a drama or, you know, an intense, character-driven action show that I do. Different than Breaking Bad, but it's his own animal, and I had fun. So
excellent. Well, going back to Wizard World real quick and just Comic-Cons, how many of these have you done? You said you're relatively new to this.
It's my second one.
Wow.
It's my second one. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, well organized, and it's really. I mean, well, no, I should say it's my third one. I was a part of one. I finally went to Comic-Con in San Francisco, and that was a zoo. And I went with the cast of Revolution, but I didn't. I only spent a few hours there on one day, so I can't count that as being at one complete Comic-Con. So this is my fullest exposure to an event like this.
One of my favorite questions to ask is, and you haven't done as many of these, but maybe you have an experience away from Comic-Con. Do you have any kind of crazies that come up to your booth? Because there are some die-hard fans.
A lot of crazies, and that's okay. You know, I understand the nature of their crazy selves, so it's all right. Yeah, people get excited.
And do you want to share?
No.
Okay, all right. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody else want to jump in? Please.
Right here, we're about 10 blocks from the headquarters of the Monroe Republic. So you have a chance to stop by for a visit.
I did this morning on my run. I love this city of Philadelphia because it's so, you know, rich in history, and I love that our storyline sort of begins here. And this is the place that, you know, after we began in the States, what used to be America, and then I was dying in our story to get back to Philadelphia because I wanted to be able to experience as Tom Neville the civilized world in which we live, and I was really wanting the audience to see that civilized world, and I'm glad we finally did get back there. I think we'll be in Philadelphia some more, but I know we're also going to be expanding to new nations now, so it'll be interesting.
I just want to say thanks for the most complex, interesting character in Revolution.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know, I like to layer, you know, my way of working, and when they came to me with the character, I thought he was an interesting guy, and the opportunity was to make him somewhat of a storyteller and have some fun with it. But the other opportunity was that to really make him someone who you might want to think twice before you said he was all good or all bad. And that comes from me just knowing that people have both inside of them. And I'm really happy for great writing. Eric Kripke and the writing team have really done a great job, and I suggested to them, look, it would be great if we could see some of the backstory of Tom Neville, and I waited a long time for them to get to it, and they finally did, and that really helped me. It informed me to think about what I had been doing previously and what I'd like to do after you saw episode 105. And 105, you know, you really saw a guy who was completely different and was forced into a position of power, of trying to find his strength, from being somewhat meek and compassionate to being, you know, a monster that you picked him up as and that you will see him become. But if you know why he became that monster, you look at him a little bit differently. And you know that somewhere inside him is that other person. So I don't know where we're about to go in season 2. I hear it's going to be a real ride. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to, you know, preserve both of those parts of Tom Neville. So I'm always thinking, you know, the thing about a television show is you're sometimes playing the same thing every week with different words. And if you're not thinking about, and it's a lot to hold in your head, we do 22 episodes. And I've got to remember things I did in 102 or 105 to inform what I'm doing in, you know, in the 22nd episode, you know, because then you're going to see good acting, if I'm thinking, because you're going to see that maybe I want to kill someone, but I really don't want to, but I have to. And if you can see all of that in a flash, you're going to see a fuller character. So, you know, hey, see you, bye. So that means I can't get lazy, because I want you to see someone rich, complex, and full, whether you love them or you hate them. But that means I gotta work at it. I can't just go in and just read the lines in the paper. I'm gonna do the opposite of what the lines say, or find a reason that there's a moment before I actually pull the trigger, and have you see that moment, and you might not understand it. You go, why did he wait? Why did he hesitate? Because there's something behind him that registers that he doesn't hate people, he really does like people, but you know, he's entrusted to keep the law, to keep the order of law, and that's what he has to do. And so I'm hoping that I'm weaving something that's full and complete, and something that people can enjoy and can't just put in a box and say he's just this or he's just that.
Is that what you look for in a role?
Always, always, because I grew up on television that was good, and then it developed into television that really played on stereotypes, and that's not smart television to me. You know, I did a show years ago called Bakersfield PD, which we did 13 episodes, one of the best shows on television, a really offbeat comedy that a lot of people didn't get, but people who were really smart got it. But it didn't last, because those shows don't last. So now I'm on a show that has commercial value, it's dramatic, it's scientific, it has an urgency about it. We're in a world, and part of the reason I took Revolution is we're in a world where all these things are about to happen. You know, we have greed, we have the next big, you know, thing in our world is going to be this, water. It already is in Africa and different places. We're buying it, so it already is a big thing here. Why would we go out and buy this bottle of water for $1? Your right to clean water, it's a right that we have, and we're buying it. We've already given up our right to demand clean water coming out of our tap, because it's not clean, because our oceans are polluted, because it's greed and graft and all the things that are really screwing up our world. So part of me doing Revolution was that I relate to that. The underlying current of me, Giancarlo Esposito, doing Revolution, playing Tom Neville, is that I love performing, and it is entertainment. But part of me saying yes is all the issues that we're facing trying to survive on this show are issues we could be facing very soon in our world. And that was my main reason for doing the show.
I can see that. I can see that.
I'm a huge fan of Revolution, and I think your acting is fantastic. I love to hate Tom. And I'm wondering, like, do you think we're going to see him and Jason maybe reconnect or finally, like, snap apart? Because you guys are, like, in between right now. And do you know if it's going to go one way or another in season 2?
You know, I don't know what Kripke has in mind, but I have a feeling that that we're going to see Jason and Tom come together before they part. That's my sense of it. Because there's a big lesson that Tom, you know, well, the Tom inside me, maybe the Tom that has to whisper to the writers, is that Jason hasn't really learned the lesson yet. And the lesson of loyalty, and the lesson of not allowing his heart to be in the way of what he needs to do. And so that, and I'm sure there's some lessons that Tom hasn't learned from Jason, but I think they have to come together to share those lessons. And then I think they have to, you know, if they're going to part, you know, they're going to have to part in a very hard way. And I think if that happens, it's going to be surrounding Mama. So I think that would be really interesting. Because I think that ultimately what Jason doesn't know is that he's probably a lot like his father. And that's what he's struggling with. And, you know, we're all a mirror for each other. So when if you hate somebody, it means that there's something about what you're looking at you hate about yourself. And so I think if we could get that in our storyline, that would be really awesome, because it would reflect how we really are normally as human beings. The people we're least patient with exhibit character traits and things that we don't like about ourselves, that we're not patient with ourselves. And so if we're able to look at that in an entertaining way, it would be an interesting way to go. But again, I don't know what Kripke has in mind. We got another writer on it. We got Rockney coming in, another master writer to weight our writing room, because the writing is good, but we want the writing to get even better, so that you don't know, you can't guess what's going to happen, and that people don't have to repeat their emotions. I'm really lucky. I got a character who's complicated. Even if he's not complicated, I'm going to make him complicated. Right? But some of the other characters on the show have been doing the same thing for 20 episodes. Same look, same words, and I can tell that they grow weary of it. Because once you start something, I'm so glad I've started and have created a character that's complicated and deep and has layers. Because that's the brand, as they call it in Hollywood or in TV world. That's your brand. And I have to hold on to that. That's my responsibility. I don't know if you know this, we have a different director every single week on television. Every week is a different director for every different episode. And they come in and tell you what to do. And you go, sometimes I go, oh, wait, hold on a second, Scott, this character wouldn't do that right here. They don't know. They watch 4 or 5 episodes, they get samples, and they come in and they're chosen to direct an episode. And they don't know the show like you do. So the actor's responsible for having all of what I've already created as Neville, which is quite full already, but you have to have room to allow the new stuff to happen. And that's what I want to be able to do. Yeah.
As an actor who very convincingly portrays the dark side of people, do you ever have a hard time getting out of that mode, or have a hard time getting into that mode on either direction?
It's a good question. Yeah, I hate to be pissed off and mean all the time. Yeah, I've played characters where it's taken me, on stage an hour or 2 to come down from that character. I did a piece called Zoo Man and the Sign for the Negro Ensemble Company. It was really a very, very intense role. I wouldn't leave my dressing room for an hour until I could come back to me. And there are times where it's difficult to ramp into playing a guy like Tom or like Gustavo Fring. But I have a way of working, I don't play. My work is my work, and it's not that I'm really so serious, but a lot of times people ask me, is there joking on the set? Do you guys play pranks on each other? I don't. I'm there to try to allow my whole being to be that character. And so even on Revolution, some people are sometimes jokey and, and messing around with each other and talking about the weather and reading the paper. I don't do any of that. Because I want to because you get one shot at it, and TV is fast. I'm a movie actor. So in movies, it takes your whole day to do a page or a half a page. In film, we do 8, 10 pages a day. That's a lot. So I don't ever want to be out of it, because you're going to see that. So when I hit the set, I'm pretty quiet. I'm trying to figure out, how I can reinterpret my lines. I'm trying to figure out how I can play against what's written and bring some feeling in between the words. It's important to me. So I'm all about just being present and trying to stay right with it and trying to honor the writer's words to see if they really work and link up with the character's emotions.
You say you're a movie guy. You obviously do TV. You're also getting into video games.
Yeah.
Am I seeing those commercials right?
You are. There's a reason for everything. I got a call from Jon Favreau to go, and he was directing, and he's a great director, directed Iron Man, to do the Destiny video game teaser. And how do you say no to Jon Favreau? I was really interested in it because the character, it's all about warriors, and it's all about fighting, and it's very violent, the game itself, but my character was a father reading to his son from a Rudyard Kipling book called The Jungle Book. Basically, it's the Mowgli story, and he's reading a part of that to his son. And I had read that book when I was a kid. It's one of my favorite books in all the world. It's a great piece of literature. It's great how they pulled out what they did from that to use it for the ad. I thought, this is going to introduce a whole lot of people into some literature they probably maybe didn't know about or had forgotten about, and is very pertinent to our world as well. So yeah, I was excited to do that. It's huge. It's going to be, the game I think will be huge, and I'm hoping maybe I can wrangle my way into being a spokesperson for the game. If you do see the trailer, just know that it was me talking to my son, which is so very linked up to kind of Revolution, to episode 105, where I'm take that big Bowie knife. That kid was so small, and that knife is, bigger than his arm. in that 105 revolution. So it really reminded me a little bit about how to teach our children that the world we live in now is different than the world that we grew up in. And it's relevant in many ways, because if we had anarchy and you didn't know how to protect yourself or survive, you'd be dead. So, you know, it's important to do, and we're in a city right here. You know, I've lived in cities for a long time, but I'm an outdoors guy, and I camp and all that stuff. And if you have some of those skills, you might be able to live longer or preserve your life or save someone else's life in the world, you know, of revolution, or the world of destiny. So that's the reason why I did it.
Excellent, excellent. Right there, sir.
So, backpacking off the question that he had asked, your persona in real life is very different from us. I was wondering what inspired the callous nature that you picked up from that.
What inspires what?
The callous nature that Gus had for the character.
Well, Gus was he was a businessman. And so for me, as I created the character, I didn't see any difference between selling, you know, Dasani water and selling meth. It's business, you know, truly business. What drove Gus from probably the very beginning, underneath all of it, was revenge. You know, he was hurt, pain. So if anyone's in pain, people who are in pain, or people who are angry, you meet people who are angry, and you think they're just vicious people and evil people, they're really not. They're really in pain about something that may have happened to them in their life at some point. And they're carrying that pain into every other interaction throughout their lives. And so Gus, in a way, had that pain. No doubt.